All right, what is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, as always, and today I'm joined in studio by my producer, Dylan Michaels. We're going to talk about the Orlando Brown Jr. situation and give our input because this whole thing has been a giant mess. So as you guys know, the Chiefs put the franchise tag on Orlando Brown Jr. earlier this offseason, and the deadline for a NFL team to extend that player that they did franchise tag is Friday, July 15th. And by the time that you're seeing this video, that's tomorrow. And the news coming out of the Orlando Brown camp is that the Chiefs are reportedly nowhere close to a deal with free agent, I guess. Well, he's not a free agent, Orlando Brown Jr., and that's according to NFL.com's Mike Garafolo. So essentially, Brown has been kind of going through this offseason, getting ready, but quietly all along, he's been wanting a new contract and wanting that stability. And it came out from his camp that he wants to be the new highest paid left tackle in the game of football, searching for around $25 million a year. And before I lose my mind, I'm going to throw it over to Dylan. Dylan, what do you think about this whole situation? And what do you think about $25 million a year for Orlando Brown Jr.?
I think that's it's high, obviously, because everyone looks at Trent Williams. And that's justified because you see him running in motion and setting up blocks and doing all these things in Shanahan's system, and he gets the highest paid contract, which, if you remember, we tried to give him before he signed that with San Francisco.
They kind of stole him away from the Chiefs.
Correct. So we already showed Orlando Brown, hey, we were willing to do that for him. Now, I'm sure he's probably at 23 and 22 maybe a year.
Trent
average.
Williams is the highest paid left tackle in football, making $23 million a year.
Oh, he's at 23.
23.
So then I would say it's probably no, it might be at 21, because if he's asking for 25, why doesn't you want to reset the market? Can we do 23.5? Can we do 24? So it's probably 21 or 22, and he's saying, oh, well, it's far off because he's asking for the moon and then expecting to land among the stars, basically, with the 25 option that he's wanting. And I think that if we can get it to 23.5, I think you can do both. And I think that might be worth it because you're going to have to overpay for a tackle at some point. Either you draft one and then you're going to overpay way down the line when everyone else has reset the market 4 or 5 times, or you're going to do it right now when it's 23 instead of 27. So it's just, I think when they say these things in the public eye, they're fighting in the public eye to get the public opinion on their side. And then they think that wins the war inside the boardroom where they're negotiating. But I feel like he is a 23.5 guy because you're going to have to overpay. You always have to reset the market with a top left tackle. And he is. He's top 5, at least, in the league. I know people,
I might argue with that.
You might argue with that. I believe he is because I believe his run blocking is very good for what I want us to become, which is a run-dominant football team. I know I'm asking for a lottery ticket with Andy Reid as our head coach, and I understand that he's a Hall of Famer, and I don't know Jack. But I would think that when you have the best quarterback in the league, we should run the ball and then play off that, and that's what Orlando Brown allows us to do.
I feel like I'm not going to say we should become a run-dominant team,
no,
but I think that they should, like, to your point,
60-40.
You can have it to where it's a more equal game. They're
60-40.
They're really just throwing in, like, they might give 10% of the snaps to the running back. Like that, you can run the ball a little bit more. Go ahead.
The West Coast offense is designed to make the short passing game replicate a running game. Per Bill Walsh, the inventor, in Cincinnati, because they had Virgil Carter, the backup. And they had to write this offense for this guy because he didn't have a strong arm. So it's dink and dunk, and there's not a lot of running, and that's what the West Coast offense is. And that's why it's always been kind of labeled finesse, is because it's not smash mouth. It's not, hey, we got to put 8 in the box right here, and oh no, we're out of luck because he's rolling out, and we had 8 people up in the box, and we're scrambling. And that's when you ever watch a game and you hear pass, pass, pass.
Yeah.
That's when a run play or run scheme is called, and all of a sudden Rodgers, and that's the best example. And Stafford with McVay, that type of offense with the floor, it's all based off the running game with A.J. Dillon and Cam Akers and all that. And that's what we need, and that's why I like Pacheco, and I like Orlando Brown. It's just got to be cheaper.
I think I think Orlando Brown Jr. was acquired because they thought that he could unlock something more in terms of pass protection. What I saw from him last year, it wasn't god-awful, it wasn't terrible, but he played 1,127 snaps, racking up 7 penalties alongside giving up 4 sacks. That's not elite, in my opinion. And I think that if he wants $25 million a year, he's got to be the best option. Because I think that if Orlando Brown Jr. was undoubtedly the second best tackle in the league, it wouldn't be out of the question to give him $25 million a year, but I don't think he's top 5. I think he's around the 10 area. I think that he gets a lot of hype and recognition because of his name. He's a very popular name, but I worry that if you pay him $25 million, we're going to have a lot of complaints because he's just not going to be living up to that contract. And I understand that you're going to have to overpay for certain people, but I almost wonder what's going to happen if he doesn't play this year, because right now, if he played under the franchise tag, he'd be making $16.6 million a year. That's what the franchise tag for left tackles is. He wants $25 million this season. I wonder if he has enough of the leverage in his side to sit out all of training camp and even up into the season to get that contract. I don't think he would. I think it's really hit or miss. But, I mean, honestly, I think that if he does sit out, you're still going to have him on the franchise tag. Maybe he plays this year under the tag, and you franchise tag him next year and trade him. I don't know. When I see $25 million, which that was reported by Matt Verderam from Fansided, my head just goes up because I can't fathom paying a guy, even though we just did trade a first-round draft pick for him a couple seasons ago. I can't imagine giving that guy $25 million when, in my opinion, he isn't deserving of that.
Yeah, I don't think he's deserving of 25. I don't think any tackle is unless your name's Trent Brown. But I don't know. I just feel like I wonder how they can do it to make it work under our cap where you can make him like the highest paid. You don't tie yourself to him forever. I mean, just the way they work the cap now, I feel like you can make this happen and make him happy. I just feel like they're going to be digging in for the most that they can get until the last possible second.
That's true.
And you're right in the sense that that's not good for any player. Like, look at Le'Veon Bell when it happened. When he sat out a full year, he was never the same. And he's got his money. I don't know how much
Jets
left.
gave him a lot of money.
But they have a lot. He has a lot of money because of it. So it's not a... Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, because these players have a lot of power, which is good for them, coming from the 70s and all that. But, I mean, he's just going to be pushing it too much for his position. Like a tackle, a big tackle. I don't know. I just feel like he should be at least there. And if you can make that happen, that would be perfect. If not, it's just going to probably hamstring us because I feel like that's going to affect us in the first 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have already said that they're not willing to pay him $25 million a year. They're a fan of Orlando Brown Jr. Pat obviously loves him, but he's just not worth that. And I want to find out what they end up giving him, if they do end up giving him anything at all, because, you know, with the relationship to Patrick Mahomes and the quality of a tackle he is in the NFL where, you know, he's not bad, he's not elite, but, you know, a good, solid left tackle is hard to find.
I'd say he's a great. I mean, I know that you
think he's a great left tackle.
I think he has the potential to be a great left tackle. I mean, I know that you don't like Pro Bowls, but he has been to 3 straight, and the last 2 were left tackles, including his first year doing it when Ronnie Stanley was down. So, and his dad, he's got the pedigree. His dad was an old Baltimore Raven back in the day. And he's those dudes I like because they've seen it. That's why Pat's so good at a baseball level, obviously. But he's seen it, and he always talks about watching A-Rod hit off the tee, and he always hated hitting off the tee. I think that Orlando Brown, even if we give him this money, I feel like he still has that pact with his father, his late father, rest in peace, to make the most of his career. He wants to be a Hall of Famer. He said he wants to be a Hall of Famer, so I don't think the money's going to make him change. I just think that it will hamstring us, like you're saying. It's cap. It's always going to affect you every year. If you can just make it backloaded, though,
Yeah.
Would you do it? Would you backload a 23 and a half?
Backloading money for a big
Voidable
left
years?
tackle. Voidable years makes it a little bit interesting.
I think people are starting to get the hang
Yeah,
of
I think
that.
Orlando Brown Jr.
I think
is like
the players are starting to figure out that we don't really like those, and nobody. I mean, would you? Would you be like, yeah?
If
sign
I
me
was a
up.
player,
You
I'd
can
hate
cut
it.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think it makes sense for Orlando Brown Jr. to have those voidable years in his contract, and I think that obviously he wants to get that long-term financial security, which I mean everyone
Everybody wants
does,
it, yeah.
but I have a hard time thinking he's going to sit out on this $16.6 million that he is going to get under the franchise tag. I mean, it'd be the most money he's made in his entire career. But with that being said, if he gets hurt under the franchise tag, let's say, God forbid, he tears his ACL and he's never the same player. He's got $16.6 million from the 2022 NFL season, but he doesn't have that $25 million a year contract where he got like a $20 million signing bonus. So I understand from that standpoint why he's maybe saying, I'm not going to play unless I get my money. But I think that it just doesn't make sense for the Chiefs to give him all that money. I would feel more comfortable around the $20 million range. I think that that's a number that makes sense for both parties. But I also think that if this offseason has taught us anything from the Kansas City Chiefs, it's that nobody's safe. They got rid of the best wide receiver in franchise history in Tyreek Hill because they weren't willing to give him that extra money. And I don't think they want to have a situation where signing Orlando Brown Jr. to this massive extension handicaps them in free agency for the next 3 to 5 years.
You're right. And here's the other thing, too, about that that's a kind of a good point, is that you're right. They're not going to want to hamstring him if they just cut a Hall of Fame wide receiver and said, see ya. They're not going to do that with a left tackle either. I just wonder how many times you want to keep replacing that position with Patrick. Like, how many times are we going to keep, because you don't know. We could say, you know what? We don't want to make that. We don't want to make that payment. And it could be the worst decision this franchise has ever made. And it happens all the time. It's not anyone's fault or anyone has a crystal ball. But you want to hear Trent Williams versus Orlando Brown side by side from Pro Football Focus?
Yes, I do, Dylan.
So, snaps played, 1,127 for Orlando Brown. Only 936 for Trent Williams. Penalties, even at 7.
Okay.
Sacks, OBJ has 4, Trent Williams 1. So, obviously his overall player grade with PFF is way higher at 97.8 to Orlando Brown's 75.4. But you look at those other ones kind of before that, because the grade is subjective. I mean, nobody knows
PFF.
what they're grading. Exactly. So I'm not even going to look at that. I'm looking at the snap count, the penalties, and the sacks. So is it worth $1.5 million over what Trent Williams is paying for 3 more sacks, same amount of penalties, and almost, it looks like 100+ more snaps?
Well, I'll tell you what.
And age, so let's not forget about age with Trent Williams. He was drafted in 2010, Orlando Brown 2018. So Orlando Brown has a point. I just don't think the point of 25 is the good point. I think he's got one to be close, if not just a little higher than Trent Williams, because that's how it goes in this league.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, that's how it works. When you're next, you're next. That's why Patrick Mahomes isn't the highest paid player in the NFL. That's why Aaron Rodgers has been fighting for more money for 3 years now, it seems like, because whoever's next just gets more. Like Dak Prescott, is he the highest? He makes more money
he might
than
not
a
anymore,
lot of people.
but he
last year he did.
Yeah.
And did they get what they paid for?
Nope.
They lost to their biggest rival at their place.
Well, I will tell you,
and they had one of the biggest blunders at the end of the game as well.
I think you make a really good point with the fact that you don't want to have that left tackle position being a revolving door. And would I pay $25 million to keep Pat safe a year? Yeah, I would. Because once Pat goes down, the season's over. It doesn't matter who you got at quarterback. It really doesn't matter who you got at left tackle. If you don't have your star quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to win a Super Bowl. And if signing Orlando Brown Jr. to a lucrative deal where he makes $24-25 a year, but obviously you can't ensure Patrick's going to be safe, but he's got that guy that he's comfortable with, who I will say he got better as the year went along last year. Having that guy under contract for the foreseeable future, that's going to be good for the Chiefs. I think it's the numbers that I'm hooked up on, and I just can't see the Chiefs paying him 25. If they paid him 23.5, if they know that they have their left tackle for the future lockdown, I think I could rationalize that.
Yeah, and I don't even think it should be 24 or 5. It needs to be 23.5, 23.1. $23 million and 1 cent, whatever makes it so that when the headline comes out, it just says that he's the highest paid left tackle in the history of the NFL. That's all they want. That's really all they want. That's what Tyreek wanted, and he's already been Cooper Kupp.
That's what I don't understand. Why do they go for this title when
it just for that day when you sit there and that day? I mean, you would love it if we were getting signed, and as you're signing, hey man, you just signed for the most money they've ever given your position. That's pretty cool. It doesn't matter if you're going to get replaced down the road. They know that. But it's almost a badge of honor, and it rightfully so.
And I feel like it almost signifies just kind of like their self-worth and kind of what they have worked so hard. And like they want to be, because if they're paid like the best, they can kind of claim that they're the best for a while.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. That's why Tyreek wanted that. You're right in the sense that it's like, it's not very long. Cooper Kupp was like, what, a month later?
Oh, yeah.
And what's Justin Jefferson going to get?
Too much money for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, yeah, anyone, to be honest, to pay a wide receiver, but he's earned it. That's the thing. It's hard. It's like you're saying it is not smart to put that much money in such a, I don't want to say volatile because that's not the right word. Fragile there we go, found it. Fragile was the word I was looking for, because linemen, man, it's car wrecks every single snap and bodies falling, and it
takes one snap to change a career.
It's not fair because they do the most out there, and he's trying to get his money because it is so fickle. You're right. It's something, God forbid, knock on wood, but that's just the NFL. You have a 100% injury rate in the NFL. Every player that's signed up and put the pads on has a nick here and there, no matter what it's going to be, where it is. And I just feel like that's what he's going for. I just don't think it's 25. 23.5. Again, I said 23. Just whatever makes it so that the headline reads, and one day Orlando Brown can sit there and say, I worked my tail off to become the highest paid ever at this position that my father played.
Yeah, I mean,
my father, I don't think he played it. He wanted him to play. That was his father's wish.
His father did play left
tackle. He
did
play, but I think because obviously Jonathan Ogden was there. So I feel like he was a left tackle playing right tackle and would go to left tackle. Yeah. I don't know. I would have to look that up.
I forgot. But
I know that obviously Jonathan Ogden is going to get probably the most snaps you can give a left tackle ever as a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. My next question and hypothetical situation is, let's say that he does sit out and the Chiefs don't want to pay him. Not trying to go around in circles, but who would be a viable option for the Kansas City Chiefs at left tackle? Let's say come week 1 and Brown is still not going to play. Because I personally am under the assumption that you could put Joe Thuney at left tackle and things would be okay. Now, I think that over the long-term season, being a guard and a tackle is very different, kind of different body. You take different impact, but I think Joe Thuney, who stepped in last year at left tackle for a game, was really impressive. Now, I know the Kennard kid that they drafted in the 5th round played some left tackle at Kentucky, I believe. He could be an option. Lucas Niang, who's kind of all over the place, hasn't really earned the trust of the organization. If he's healthy, he could be a left tackle candidate. But, who are you thinking if Brown doesn't play?
So here I got the list of the remaining left tackles after Teron and Davenport signed. Nate Solder.
He played a lot of guard in New England.
He was a tackle.
Was?
Don't ever take a tackle from New England because Bill Belichick can scheme around him. See Trent Brown.
It's true.
Now, Dwane Brown from the Seattle Seahawks, although he just had a pretty big incident go down, but that has never shied us away. I just don't know enough about it. If it's serious, I just know I saw the headline because I remember thinking, oh my God, Orlando Brown got arrested, but it was Dwane Brown apparently recently was arrested.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't touch any offensive lineman that came from Seattle.
Right. He's 36 too.
Yeah.
Then you got Big Fish is the next one available at 31 years old. Do you? I don't think.
Don't
I
hate
think
that.
bridge is.
I don't hate that. I would be
charred.
I'd be
bridge
okay.
is charred to a crisp. I feel like after we cut him when he tore his Achilles, it's kind of tough to be like, hey, that guy we're not trying to pay. You want to come replace him for a couple weeks, and then we'll bring him back. I mean, that's gonna be tough. And honestly, I don't think you do that to a man that's put a lot of service into us.
Yeah.
Then we go to Riley Reef, 33, but he was just playing for Cincinnati, and we saw how that worked. And then Jason Peters is 40. So that's it.
There's a reason why these guys are still
Exactly.
available.
But that's what you're going to have to deal with if you can't pay this guy. And it's also going to really upset him. So it's going to make it. If you sign one of those people, we all might as well just kiss Orlando Brown goodbye, because that's just, if you're not going to pay me and you're going to pay any of those guys I just listed off over me, that's almost a slap in the face where it might not be,
acceptable.
Exactly.
I wonder, who are your thoughts on roster currently? Because I didn't really think about the idea of going out and getting somebody.
I like your idea on Tooney. I just feel like we might be blinded by that one game without film that he played in Cincinnati, and he was electric. He was amazing. What is it when he's 4 weeks in and they're just got all the film on him and all of his, splits? They can tell if this big toe's pointed this way, he's going, So always a 1 week wonder is hard to base your entire franchise, Patrick Mahomes' protection on. But I like your Kennard idea, because he played left tackle a little bit, and so did Niang, but he's got to be in a little bit better shape, and he is. I know he's been working, obviously, to get the speed down, because that first game when he was out there, I think it was just too fast. And that's what happened when he unfortunately hurt himself, was he was going against Trey Hendrickson, which is not an easy task on your first time switching sides. So he just has to be in a little bit better shape, and I feel like he will get there. He's young, but you're kind of stuck right now. And if you would have got Trent Brown last year, we wouldn't even be talking about, Trent Williams last year. How much were you willing to not go? What was the number that the 49ers did and you said no to, because now you're just dealing with it all over again?
I wonder if we offered Trent Williams 24, because I'm under the assumption that he would have gone back to play with San Francisco for less.
Right. I mean, we have to pay a tax, and it's not a shot at us. It's Cincinnati has to pay this tax. Buffalo has to pay this tax. C. Von Miller. It's a tax for being in a cold weather, not major metropolitan area. It's just the tax. You got to pay extra because you have to lure these guys away from San Francisco Bay Area. 3 hours to LA?
Yeah.
4 hours to Hawaii. I mean,
people don't want to play in Buffalo with 12 feet of snow.
That's why Von Miller took. I mean, that is not talked about enough how dumb that contract is, but not for Von Miller.
It'll be great for us because they have a lot of money tied up in that. But getting back to the whole Orlando Brown thing and to kind of close it out, I think that we're both okay with the Chiefs extending him and giving him a contract, but it can't be for $25 million. The Chiefs don't even think it can be for $25 million.
I don't even think he thinks that.
Yeah.
Again, I just think when you negotiate, you're going to go in and just say some absurd, oh, you pay $10 an hour, I want 20.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll settle at 15. That kind of.
But the problem is they're nowhere close to a deal, and the deadline to get a deal done is Friday.
They are saying they're nowhere. They're just using all of us to publicly. That I feel like when they say we're not even close, well, you're only $4 million off. I'd imagine that's pretty close. We're not asking you to. We don't think we're going to pay you 16.
Yeah,
but we're not going to pay you 25. So come in the middle here. We'll make you highest paid at 23.5.
And I think we'll watch this situation very closely.
Yeah,
because I want to know what happens.
And it'll be backloaded 23.5. It'll be like $40 million in 2027. And this year he'll play on his salary.
I wonder. We'll watch this.
And the signing bonus will be nice.
Yeah.
That's the best part. And that's the other thing about, they need to get it done, because here's the other great part about it. When he does get it done, whatever, if he likes the number or not, I'm sure he's going to like the big check that comes in that signing bonus, which is what, he deserves. So make the signing bonus huge. Do something. Put the years where you can convert it into a signing. Do whatever you did with Patrick. Just figure it out, because we looked at the list. We also compared him to Trent Brown, who's highest paid. And I mean, what do you think? Who's the next best offensive tackle in the NFL? It's going to be hard for you to just like Teron Armstead,
Ronnie Stanley,
and Ronnie Stanley. Okay, so Teron Armstead just signed for 75 total, 5 years, which makes his average 15.
It's a lot different than 25, isn't it?
A lot different than 25, and it's a lot less than 23 and a half. And Teron Armstead is a damn good left tackle for the Saints for a long, long time. And Miami, quote-unquote, overpaid for him basically at 15 is what people say. Everyone overpays because you're paying the highest price that no one else will go to.
That's just how NFL free agency and signing players works. But I think that, come late July and early August, we'll have a better situation and feel on this entire matter. I think that we'll watch training camp, and if he doesn't report to training camp, we might have a problem, but I'm under the assumption that a deal won't get done by Friday, but they might have something worked out for later on. And that's just what I'm thinking of right now. But anyway, Dylan, do you have any closing thoughts in this video?
A quick one, that deadlines make deals, so let's just pray and hope that it makes one Friday.
That's a very good quote. Dylan, I appreciate you joining me in this video.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I was going to plug something. Oh, yeah, go check out the website. That's kcsportsreport.com. The Twitter is at kcsportsreport. The Instagram is kc_sportsreport. I appreciate you guys watching this video. And as always, thanks for watching.